Shalom, RasTafari. Greetings. This is the part 2 of Jay-Z's Tidal, Tidal, right? And the Hebrew connection. What is the Hebrew connection? Now, in the first part, we went into a roots, the biblical root, or the possible biblical root of this name Tidal, right? Or Tidal, right? Now, Tidal. I said, and I'll say it here again, I give thanks to CDF, Conspiracy Dude Fury, or Conspiracy Dude's Fury, right? For this particular vid that you did, right? This particular vid that you did right here, right? Let's see if we can get this balance going on right here. Once again, the white balance. There we go, right? Jay-Z's Tidal music streaming controversy, right? About a week ago was put up there. I would really advise ones check it out, right, for themselves, and how he also connects the bigger point, right, with so-called black people, right? So check out this particular video. Now, as I said, I heard everybody talking about Tidal and people doing their videos and pointing out, so-called Illuminati signs, a lot of speculative, but some very important observations. But when you connected it with the biblical Tidal, right, and Tidal, right, and this First World War, right, many people don't even understand that the real First World War, this was the First World War right here. Now, you have to think, as it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. So why this particular name? First, I was thinking, is it like a tidal wave or something like that? But what's the real connection, especially of what, ones like Jay-Z are in, what is the real connection, especially also in this particular Jubilee year? Sarasutin said, I think he had a video out, the Black Illuminati or something on that. I saw this as, I think, one of the covers, for it. It's out there on the YouTubes, and I checked it out, but I want to check it out again now that there are like more kind of developments going on. Now, it's also very interesting that when he launched this, that he had all of these persons or personalities, right, involved. It kind of reminds me of the layout that we have here in Genesis chapter 14, 14:1 and 14:9. Now, it's one of the little obscure places in the Bible, and most coming from a so-called nigger and Negro Christian and churchianity kind of background are not going to really pick up on this. These are the parts of the Bible they just scroll through. They don't really study it. Because Master didn't give them, his preachers and pastors to go into any real deep study of it. So, most are not going to get this. Now, Tidal was a Canaanite. That means he was a merchant. Interesting that the Canaanites are merchants. Remember Bob Marley talked about old pirates? Yes, they rob I. But many of us thought that, it's talking about just the white folks, so-called white people, right? And in CDF's video, he points out, just how many black people were slave owners or owners of black people up here in America, right? And also about so-called black conservatives, right? And the other half of the story that we don't really peep, right? We don't really see people, they talk about peeping the game, and they might peep a little nigger street game on a certain level, but they don't peep the real, the real game, right? The real game that's going on. For example, choosing this name Tidal, right? And many of us thinking that, what is this about? A tidal wave? A tidal? What the hell is Tidal about? Like I said, once again, CDF, you hit it on the head. Now, you said that you think it means fearful son in the sense of fearful S-U-N and not S-O-N. There's something there, right? But we're going to go to the real root of this because, like I said, the so-called synagogue of Satan, right? The synagogue of Satan Jews, they know this. How do we know? Well, as of the royal order of the Ethiopian Hebrews, when we're studying this, it's like They are using our script and our ignorance against us, right? And also the greed of those who are on a very low and even demonic vibrational frequency. And you already pointed that out, going into certain songs and what people have testified of themselves and never have recanted it. Now, in this particular chapter, chapter 14, as we mentioned, is the First World War. Now, in this war, Abraham, and his 318 trained servants entered this particular war. It's not a big number. And he was talking about a generation of sacrifice and how this present so-called generation of so-called white people or privileged class or whatever, so they may say, I don't want to own your slaves or whatever. It wasn't me. So they are benefiting from it. So we have to see that the things today are based on the things yesterday. And many of these things are right in front of our face. But because either for whatever reason we turn off to the Bible or we believe the lie or whatever else like that, we really don't see these keys when they are used in front of us, opening doors, right? They're opening certain doors. Because you have to remember that ones like Madonna, who is not a so-called Jew, but she's all into Kabbalah, so forth and so on. That means that these names, and why would she sign on to something like that unless there is a deeper meaning? So she probably asked her rabbi, or one who has that sort of level of knowledge, so she understands this as well as everybody else who is standing with it. And they put Jay-Z as a front man. So what does this really has to do with the real big picture here? Well, and also you mentioned that about the Rihanna, the side chick, so or concubine. Very good point there. But Tidal, right? Tidal means now, and this is the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, means splendor. It means renown, veneration, and we already know that he plays Jay's so-called Z or Mr. Kata. He plays with this whole idea of Jay-Z, Jehovah, and we know Jehovah, at least from his perspective, is I am what I am, I be who I be, so forth and so on, but really it's he. So there's a lot of misconfusion, misunderstanding rather, leading to confusion on that. But when we look in the name, according to the meta of it, it means splendor, renown, veneration, or in the sense of fear. So we're qualifying what it says right here in the H84:13, when it says fearfulness. And in the first part of the video, we even trace it all the way to the serpent, to a snake. And what happened in his business dealings. You can see that, what he says out of his mouth, and you can see the whole thing. It's all there in front of you, but some want to believe a lie. Let them believe a lie, right? But Tidal was the king of Goyim. He was the king of the nations. But there wasn't any nation. See, these nations, the Goyim, the time that we're in now is called the times of the Gentiles biblically. But the Goyim are the Anglo-European nations, or we can say so-called pseudo-white supremacy. Right? That's the key. So Tidal was the king, right? He was the king of this Goyim, right? The king of the nations. And these mean the other nations except the black nation, the lost sheep of the house of Israel nation. I want you to just understand that right there in the prophetic of it. But anyway, I'm rushing because a little bit of time. I want to get at least this part in, and then we're going to go into a little bit of depth. And wow. Anyway, he joined Kedor Laomer, who was king of Elam. Now, we could break down all these names, and when you see all the names broken down and you understand what it means in the metaphysical and the story, and then you look at what's going on now, you'd be like, whoa, wow, that's it right there, right? This is how we're supposed to study, right? In battle, so he joined Kelodomar, right, king of Elam, in battle against the 5 kings of the plain. The 5 kings of the plain, right? In the vale or the valley of Siddim. Right. Now, this also connects with Sodom. Right. So a lot of what's being put out in that noise that it pretends to be music. It's like the noise industry, but the music industry, you know what I mean? It'll be obvious too. Now, metaphysically, Tidal is the very large and prominent place, splendor, renown, veneration. You know, he's elevated. He's into this big place. He's like a god, right? That sensuality, get that, has in the sense, right, material and carnal states of consciousness. That's why a lot of ones on a certain level, they worship these false gods, right? They worship these false gods because they are in a sense, a material sense, and a carnal or a fleshy state of consciousness. And even, I must say, even among the so-called pseudo-black consciousness, many of them are in that same lower level, carnal, fleshy state that belongs to the outer, the animal man. Can anybody say chimera? The animal man, also the fearfulness that results from sense expression. You know, one thing when I look at Jay-Z, there's I just have to say with like what Bob said, there's a guiltiness. I know that even when you look at this picture right here, yeah, he look kind of tough and everything, but there's something else going on for those who are spiritual can see that. But let's go to Goyim. Let's see if we can get Goyim here, right? Goyim, G-O-I-I-M, Goyim. It's the Gentiles. That's who enslaved you niggas. Who shot you? Who enslaved you? The Gentiles, right? The nations, the peoples, especially foreign, and also in the vid, he touches on that with Madonna. Bodies, right? The bodies, the dead bodies, corporealities. Tidal, king of Goyim, was one of the 4 kings who went to war with the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Or the 4 against 5. I want you to keep that in mind. Do the math. The 4 against the 5, right? He went to war with the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah and defeated them. So Tidal is going to win something. Think about it. Tidal is going to win something initially. It's going to be an initial win. I know a lot of you say, I ain't going to sign up for that, get the music for free, so forth and so on. Don't you think they anticipated that? But anyway, Tidal, he wins, right? This first round, the 4 kings. He was one of the 4 kings that went to war with the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah and defeated them. Later, these 4 kings were overthrown and destroyed by Abraham, by the exalted father, right? Later, these 4 kings were destroyed. Let me put this right here. You know, little man carried a big stick, were destroyed by Abraham, right? Now, let's go further here. So I'm not going to over this right now, but hopefully they will before it's too late. Metaphysically, the Goyim represents metaphysically the carnal or the fleshy, right? The material thoughts and the states of consciousness. Isn't this what it's all about? Everybody who got together for this, I think about this. This is exactly what we're dealing with, right? The carnal, the material, thoughts and the carnal and material states of consciousness that belong to the outer man. That's the Gentiles, the nations. Now, the next link is Kedorlaomer, right? Kedorlaomer. It's a little bit of a mouthful there, but he's in that 14:1 of Genesis, 14.1, Genesis 14.1, right? I think also 14.9. Now, Kedorlaomer, right? Hebrew, they say it's of a doubtful origin. So they speculate that means a sheaf band, a handful of sheaves, around this as a sheaf. Now the sheaf is, it's like the what they call it, the wheat. The wheat. You think about the wheat when they show you those symbols that have the wreath around it, so forth and so on. Anyway, the king of Elam, right? He was one of the 4 kings who made war against the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah in Abraham's time and took Lot captive. Lot was released and these kings were destroyed or slain by Abraham. Now Philo, a scholar, says of Kedorlaomer that his Elamite name would be Kudur Lagamer. Now, I like to get into who these peoples are today. You're going to stay on part 2. But check what the name means. Meaning the servant of the goddess. The servant of what? The goddess Lagamar. Lagamar. Lagamar, who perhaps represents the dawn. The dawn. Right? The dawning of the age of the... Now, metaphysically, right? The generative... or the sexual functions of the body when they're given over to the expression of sex lust. So what is this noise pretending to be music really promoting? The carnal state of mind, lust, but ultimately a fearfulness, right? This fearfulness where Negroes become psychotic and actually implode and kill themselves and destroy themselves. You have to really understand this connection right here. Right? So the kings of Genesis 14 and 2, they served Kedorlaomer for 12 years and then rebelled. They represent the ruling thoughts in the hidden sense consciousness of man. So, all these people, they get together and say, yeah, we're doing this together, but what are their hidden thoughts? You see, the symbol of the Illuminati or whatever, they use the symbol of a serpent eating its own tail. That means the system will destroy itself. It will eat itself. They will eat themselves, right? This is what happened. They rebelled, right? Served him for 12 years and then rebelled represents the ruling thoughts in the hidden sense consciousness of man. I could throw out there Damon Dash, what happened. And he's testifying on his channel to what happened, right? Telling his story. Now, the substance of these ruling energies is given over to the use of the functions pertaining to the generation to build them up and strengthen them in sense expression, to express more of this black hedonism, this black narcissism, right? This black so-called wickedness, right? In time, however, this constant waste of substance and sex ways causes a deterioration of the whole man. And this is what's happened to the black body politica, or the black body so-called politic, or to the black people, the black race, niggers, whatever you want to call them, so-called African Americans. And even the desire for sex expression leaves him, where they go over into the Batimanism, right? The bend downism. Right? The ruling tendencies in his sense nature, which represent the kings, they rebel against Kedorlaomer or Cheddar. And then if you read it one way, it's like cheddar. And that's all they talk about. It's a cheddar. But really it's Kedar, right? He is, of course, frightened then and goes to war with these kings to restore his dominion over them. See Jay-Z and